Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Creative Office Podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Marroquin, and I have two awesome people here today. We got Gabe Bodensteiner and Jeremiah Harper.
Hello.
Can y'all say what's up?
Hello, everyone.
Please excuse our voices. They're a little under the weather right now, but it's all good. It's November. It's starting to get chilly out.
Yes.
Holiday drinks are out at Starbucks. Come on.
Incredible.
Let's go. We're excited. So this is episode 5. We are going to talk about priorities. So I think I have two people that really resemble priorities. And one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have Gabe and Jer is because they're SCU alumni, right? You guys both.
We were in the same
Did-
class.
Oh, really? I didn't even know
Yeah.
that. No
Really?
way.
Gabe
I had
and
no
I,
idea.
Gabe and I were in 604 together our first year MMI.
Yeah, and then we traveled to Cuba on a mission trip together for our final year.
I had no idea. That's awesome. Well, yeah, but the biggest thing was just you guys being alumni, you know, being an MI and now being so involved with the church. I think, and before we even get started, we're not trying to bash on any interns. I'm not trying to call anybody out. I'm just saying that these are people who at one point in their life were doing what a lot of you guys are doing. And now, you know, they have major responsibilities in the church. And I think it's really important when it's cool to see the fruits of being in an internship and then being at a position in the church where you're taken into consideration a lot and you have a lot of responsibilities. Jer, for those who don't know, is in charge of services. He's basically the person that coordinates what person is opening service, what person is doing components, you know, what videos are being played where, which I don't want to have that role. So thank you for taking that responsibility. You know, and then Gabe is a production pastor, so similar position to mine, just different campus. So priorities are just really important in the church, and these are two people that really resemble that. So priorities, let's just get right into it.
Yeah. I
you
think
wanna
what's cool
start, Gabe?
about Jeremiah and I is we guys have a overview. We have a similar enough story of where we both did the internship. We actually both grew up in this house and went to this church, saw people that we love go to other places, be sent to other places, and then did the internship. And then same thing, had friends that we loved go to other places. Some of them stopped going to church, unfortunately. And then we both weren't like hired on within our internship year, but instead we worked at other places and then are still involved in the church. And I think one of the biggest things, I can't speak for Jared, but for me, is just making the church a priority instead of doing anything because of a reward I get or anything like any type of title position is always just being here because I make God's house a priority. You know, I think if you read throughout the New Testament, you don't see Paul saying, hey, you know, just because the church isn't, you don't feel like you're valued at a church, leave. And that's not my case here. I've always loved the people at this church. But I think that when you make God's house a priority, you know, life just almost becomes easier because then you get offended, but you still continue to go to church. People leave and you get a little sad, but you still continue to go to church. And I think I think our stories are a cool reflection of when you do prioritize the church. And I'm not saying prioritize the church over your relationship with God, as some people do, but I think that's some people like ministry, and they love God, and they don't love the church, and don't make that a priority.
It's true.
I think people can really mix up choosing God, which is a good thing, over priorities with the church, you know? And I think when we're in a position where we serve God, we have certain responsibilities and almost like a due diligence, right, of what we have to do in certain situations. You know, we are here at the church a lot. I think the creative team is one of the teams that is here.
We never leave.
We literally never leave.
We eat, sleep, breathe.
Literally. So I think that it's just important because we need to have our own time with God. Just because we serve at the church so much, we're here all day for, Darling Conference or for Encounter or whatever it may be, that doesn't mean that we're that much closer to God just because we're always here.
Yeah.
Like, we still have to prioritize seeking the Lord in our own time, apart from being able to serve God.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So I remember when I took this job, I was like, and I told Zach Bates this, I was like, man, I'm so excited to be in God's house every day because it's going to push me to read my Bible more and be closer to God. Well, reality is it didn't do that. And it was like 3 months into the job, and I was like, what am I doing? I thought it was going to be so much easier. I'm going to be in church all the time. I'm going to be so good with prayer and seeking God and reading my Bible. And then I was like, wait, I haven't read my Bible a single time since I started working here at church, right? I do it outside. But I thought it was going to be like devotionals every day and like prayer all the time. But reality is, because it is our job, we still have days where we just don't even have time.
Yeah.
Like there are times where I don't even look at my phone for a couple hours because we're just working and working, much less read my Bible. So that's where we have to take on the realization that, okay, this is work, yes, and we work at a church, but there's still that priority to seek God in our alone time, to seek God
right.
outside of church, and just find relationship with the Lord somewhere else. And I don't mean like another church. I mean like somewhere else, whether it be at home, if we want to go to a coffee shop to do devos or just something. I think that's where we need to self-reflect to be like, okay, what can I do that fits in my schedule? Because I understand we have really, really busy schedules. And another reason why I wanted to have you guys is because you guys did MI and still had to balance jobs. Like, Gabe, you were on staff and working at Starbucks at one point, right? At the same time. So it's like, that's a lot to do, a lot of responsibility with the church on top of another job that you have. So I think that it's just where we need to kind of put on our big boy pants and be like, hey, we need to find the time and make the time. Because it's so easy to say, yeah, I'll do it, but we don't.
If you don't make time, I think, for the Lord in your day-to-day thing, it's kind of just like, okay, well, then what do you expect your life to be?
Exactly.
I think, especially in this season of life where I was like still here and I was also still working, and I thought that me coming in and especially before coming on staff and like me coming in and still doing everything volunteer, like that was enough. But then if I didn't prioritize my alone time and my own personal devotion and my own personal worship with the Lord in the midst of me doing the things that I was doing here in ministry, and on top of also like gosh, I lost my train of thought, but like doing things here at the church on top of also doing my job and things like that, if I didn't prioritize my own relationship with the Lord, then everything I think was just meaningless. Like, I can't expect that my time of serving here at the church and doing everything is like going to prepare what the Lord wants to do, I think, fully in our services or in times of worship like that. Like, I remember like just even thinking about priorities, and I think about in being a worship leader or being a service producer, even planning our services. Like, if I don't take my own time with the Lord and my own personal devotion and my own personal worship with him, like, then honestly, like, not that the Lord still won't move, but I'm not preparing my own heart for what the Lord wants to do. And you always hear in church, right? Like, you want to go somewhere before you can take people anywhere with you.
Exactly.
And it's so true. Like, I even think about last night with like First Wednesday, and I think about like in our different moments, and like we're all at different seasons of life, right? Like, John's engaged, Caleb just had a baby, like
Gabe's married.
Like, Gabe's married. Yes. I'm going through a season of life with taking on another job. It's just like, okay, like, and I think about in the moment, especially of I Speak Jesus, and I think about the different things that I feel like have been kind of going through my mind and stuff like that. And I was thinking about singing and speaking the name of Jesus over my fear and anxiety, right? But I did that before coming into rehearsal.
Yes.
I did that before the night actually happens. Like, you have to prioritize your moments of personal worship with the Lord before you can honestly do anything in ministry.
Yeah.
And I think especially being an intern, I think in the internship, especially Gabe and I's year, like, there were moments, of course, like, we can be lazy and tired, that I feel like that's just kind of an intern thing. But-
Everybody though,
and
Yeah.
everybody. One thing I heard so beautiful though, especially with doing my last year of the internship this last school year, is there's a difference between time management and energy management. And
good, yeah.
like so many of us in many capacities, like sure, like time management is a huge thing, but also it's energy. And like sometimes, I mean, I'll be honest, like last night, like I felt so tired right away coming in. And I was like, and it wasn't because of time, it was really just my energy. But then I was like, okay, let me preserve my energy, but also let me give God my very best, because that's what he deserves, for not only for the sake of sure it's first Wednesday and we all can have an encounter with the Holy Spirit, but also like he deserves my best in this moment, in this time that I get to honor him and worship him with all that I am. So yeah, I just think priorities, I think, is something, especially as young adults, that we don't really realize how important it is until like, sometimes like not like a falling or whatever, but sometimes something like happens to us that we're like, where did that come from? And it's just like, well,
Yeah.
when we don't have our priorities in place, like you can't be so shocked when something kind of goes a direction you never really thought for it to go.
Yeah. that's-
Yeah, I want to read Isaiah 40:29 says,
Come on, Bible.
come on,
Yeah.
Bible. It says, he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. And I think a lot of us don't want to accept that. Some days we are just weak.
Yeah.
Some days we're just so worn out that it's like, it's okay to turn to God. But a lot of us, and I'm speaking for myself. It's like, I put myself in a position where it's like, oh, I work at a church. It's like, I need to push forward. I need to not, I almost feel ashamed to be like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
But reality is that it's okay to feel like that, And so verse 30 goes on to say, even youths, it reminds me of Schmidt from New Girl, even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. And then this is where it gets hopeful. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. So then that's where the Lord is like, okay, you serve, you're tired because you serve me a lot. You do MI, you have family, you have other responsibilities. But when you put all of that in my hands,
Yeah.
then that's where God renews our strength. That's where moments like last night,
Yeah.
because sometimes there are even days where on Wednesdays, we have staff chapel and we got to come in the morning. You have 7:45 call time. So we're here from 7:45 until after first Wednesday's over.
Yeah.
So I don't get home sometimes till like 8:30 or 9.
Or
And that's
even-
more than 12 hours.
Yeah.
Then,
Even with working at Starbucks now, and it's like yesterday I opened.
Yeah,
at
you were
4,
at 4 a.m.
and then I was like, okay, like, and I did some stuff around the house, and then I came in the afternoon, and then
and then
didn't
all
leave.
afternoon, exactly.
Yeah, and then was here, and it's just like, oh, like I'm so tired, but yeah, the Lord just renews that strength.
Yeah, yeah,
like, and you can never like in your weariness and your tiredness, never feel like the Lord still like won't use you. I think sometimes I got so caught up many times, like in like where I've just been so like weak and so tired. I'm like, I don't even know if I really can do this or whatever. And then I think about how good like something like maybe a day in the office or maybe a service went. And, I would leave, I would get home and I'd be like, I was so tired, but that like went really well.
You just don't even feel.
You don't even
you don't
realize,
realize
it sometimes.
till after. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had moments where, like last night, it was like, okay, rehearsal went great, service went great, and then service ended, and I was like, man, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel it while we
Yeah.
were playing and all that. It's just because when you're in the spirit, that's where God kind of comes through and just fills in that space,
Yeah, and that's also, I think, a cool thing about our church is how we measure our successes. We don't ever look at like, oh, we did a cool thing, but sometimes it's cool to bring that up. But we always look at like what we're doing, and we keep our priorities, all our values, our church, which I would say also classifies as priorities, involve reaching people, bringing people
Yeah,
from believers,
totally.
from seekers to believers, believers to disciples,
Yep.
disciples to teachers. And that's what's the cool part is that we're fortunate enough to be a part of a church that is doing that. So
Yes.
when we post things like during conference where we're here for a while, yeah, it's cool that we did something and the stage looked cool or whatever, but it's also cool that there are testimonies of, in Johnny Conference, of women getting connected to women, in Sentinel, of guys finding community, in UG Conference, of people finding the Lord.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's cool about what we get to do, is that within our job, our priority is not even like to do exactly what we're working on, but just to set like the table for what for people to move, and like for you guys are saying, like for God to work even in not just our lives but in everyone's lives.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's all about people coming into his kingdom, And when you prioritize, when you prioritize, you let yourself down, like you let your own desires and stuff down, and just realize, like, at the end of the day, it's about people coming into the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Like, and you prioritize that, like, it just becomes so, there's such a levity with it, I feel like. And like, I'm so passionate about like people coming into the kingdom of God. And I think when you prioritize, like, especially preparation, I think is a huge thing that go alongside with priority. Like, I think, from a worship leader aspect, right? Like, if you are not taking yourself there with the Lord before you can bring other people with you in worship, or even as a service producer, if I'm not preparing as a service producer, like looking through the service order or planning the best way I can, like that's not preparing and prioritizing for people to come into his kingdom better. And when you prioritize that, it just makes it so easy. I think about many people are like, that was such a great service, that was such a great set, blah blah, this that. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's because we've taken the time to realize, like, no, like God's kingdom is worth it. Totally. God's, like, the love, the power, the joy, the peace of the Lord is so worth it for people to have this experience, for people to have this encounter. And so when you prioritize those things, I really believe that the Lord then just moves all those things that we could be going through in our lives aside for people, and not just the people who come into our doors of our church, but for us to even encounter him and encounter his kingdom and be a part of his kingdom and stuff like that. I just think it really just is very, very important. Yeah.
I think something cool about each of us is that we're always here, us three. Like, we don't really have like families to take care of at the moment. Like, my wife's working a couple hundred feet
Come
away
on,
from me
wife.
right now, which is awesome.
Shout out Savda.
That's why I love the verse that we got this party from. Jerry, you have it pulled up. Do you want to read the
I
verse?
do,
So
yes.
This is the verse of why
First
we chose.
Timothy.
1 Timothy 3:5 says, "For if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church?"
Yeah, and I think that's like the first part is, we're in the unique situation of being able to give a lot of time to the church, and some people don't have the opportunity. I think if you're just like listening and you're trying to think like, we don't want. I hope. What I'm not trying to say is you need to prioritize God's house more, because maybe like you're at the end of your energy level, and when you come in and you serve, or you even just attend on Sundays, and I think, but maybe you don't realize what your priorities are. So I mean, I would just like maybe think about like, what is your priority? I would obviously say probably make God number one, and then
Totally.
Even what I love about Phil is he makes it very clear that his family is his priority, and Phil's the one that's going out on Saturday mornings to adopt a block and handing out, and feeding and clothing people that don't have the opportunity. And he still makes it clear that his priority is his family above his job. And I think, it'd be, as I'm recently married, I would have to like rethink my priorities as my family grows and such in this moment. But so the priorities for my life right now will look different than they will in like 5 years.
Yeah. And I think it's also understanding balance. Priority is about balance, because,
Core value 8?
Yes.
I should have said that with more confidence. It's core value 8.
Core value 8.
Philippians 4:5.
There you go.
Only
But
King
the
James version.
reason why I bring that up is because not everyone's life at the church looks the same.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know, we got a huge variety of different people that serve on our church. We got, you know, families that are big. You know, we got big families
Big families,
who
people
have
climb
younger
towers.
kids. We got people who have older kids. We have, you know, single moms, single dads, literally a variety of everything.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is to just, if you have one day of the week for church, give it your all. Prioritize that one day. You know,
Yeah.
if you can't make a first Wednesday, you know, if you can't make it to whatever other event we have that week, but if you can make it on a Sunday morning, then take, you know, prioritize that one morning to, okay, excuse me, prioritize that one morning to, this morning is the day that I have put aside, you know, for the Lord.
Yeah.
So then I think it's important to just give it your all, because, you know, I spend a lot of time here at the church, as the three of us do, but that's not necessarily everybody's case, you know. So we have to kind of prioritize our family time, our time here at church,
Yeah.
other events, but then maybe someone else has to prioritize, you know, their full-time job with still going to church and having, you know, going home to kids, going home to a wife, or the other way around, right?
Right.
Going home to a
Yeah.
husband, or being a stay-at-home mom, you know, homeschooling your kids, or being a stay-at-home dad, homeschooling your kids, like whatever it may be. It's just, I think the idea of priority is just setting aside time for the Lord in the midst of things
Yeah.
during the week,
That's
then
right.
still being able to prioritize your time on a morning. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, I just think ahead of when I have my kids, you know, it's like, all right, guys, Sunday morning is like a church day.
Yeah.
Don't expect to do anything else on a Sunday but church,
Yeah.
unless we're out of town or whatever it may be, because that's how I grew up. You know,
Same,
and I
bro.
honor and I bless my parents for, you know,
That's why we click so well, because we were literally raised the same. Like, I remember I never, and I guess you can say humble brag, I don't know, but like I've never missed a Sunday in my life unless I've literally been like
out of town or something.
deathly sick or
Or
like
sick, yeah.
out of town. Yeah, ever.
But
Like,
even
I've
when I go
always
out of
been in
town,
church.
I'm like, what churches are around
I
here
know
or something like that. Or
yeah, for real. Like,
but that's just me.
and like, and I'm thankful for that. And it's, you know, it's like not everybody has had that. And I think though, for us to be people where we encourage, like, hey, but like make sure to make this a priority, not for
Yeah.
the sake of, and I think too, like, it's not like we're saying like prioritize like God's house so you can serve somewhere or whatever. No, like understand the importance it is to be one in community, and two, just worship him in spirit and truth, and like in, like, that's not what, that's, this episode isn't about like, oh, like prioritize God's house so you can, you know, be here at PR campus on Sunday morning for graphics. That's not what it's about. It's about like prioritizing your relationship with the Lord and understanding the importance of what it means to be a part of his church, not
Yeah.
Motion
Yeah.
Church, but Big C Church, and in his kingdom is what this is about. And
Yeah.
so,
But
yeah.
not to think of a too morbid thought, but let's say some mirror struck this church. I know all of us here would be at a church Sunday morning,
It's so real.
which is not because, you know, not because of anything other than we just make God's church a priority.
Exactly. Wherever it may be.
Yeah.
You know, which I think is really, really cool that we're just kind of in an environment where, you know, I think the reason why our church is so busy with so many events, and I think Roger is just, it's been revealed to Roger from the Lord that doors are open. The church's doors need to stay open for people to be able to come in,
Yeah.
which is, the church will get judged for being open during COVID. I wasn't here during that. But
Oh,
like,
it was a time.
It was fun.
that's what I'm saying.
It
I
was
wasn't
a fun time.
wasn't
I loved it.
News articles about us. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. But my point is, it's like Roger was like, we're not shutting down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the church is not gonna bow down to anything. And
Yeah.
some people may disagree. Some people are like, oh, that was very reckless or not smart. It's like, okay, whatever. But when you look at it, how many people would have not been able to attend a church if Roger would have been like, oh, government said no, we're gonna close
Yeah.
down.
To
How many-
think about the people who would not have their relationships with the Lord the way they are now
Yeah.
at that time didn't happen. And that's very, like, I feel like my world outside of church, like I just have so many people around me, which is great, and I love them all, and they're so incredible, all incredible people. But I remember everyone was like, how can you be like still attending and like we're supposed to be shut down? I was like, I'll be very honest, I'm not going to let anybody tell me like when and when I cannot worship the Lord.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
especially corporately.
Yeah.
And seriously, like one thing I think about, I don't think about it a lot, but when the topic of like us being open during COVID, I think, and I'm like, the amount of people that would not know the Lord, which I feel like is the biggest thing, and
Yeah.
two, have the relationship with the Lord, and maybe
Yeah.
even their people and community and stuff like that. Like if we didn't have that, like to think like people wouldn't have been able to experience that if we did stay closed is beyond me. But I'm thankful, and I'm very, very thankful.
Yeah, I remember just like hanging up Jake Archer, like just randomly, and if he would have just to talk like during COVID, just because I knew that he was able to talk and he would have not been scared of what was going on, and or if he would have, that he would have known the risk, and I'm thankful for my personal life.
Yeah, so priorities are just, it's a good thing to have priorities, and I think everyone should have them. So we're going to have to finish now just because these cameras can't record for that long.
Oh, you're fine.
We'll work on it, guys. Don't worry.
Okay.
But I think we got really good conversation out of it, and thank you guys for pouring your hearts out and
Thank
doing
you.
this. And so
My goodness.
we're super excited to, I say this all the time because I am excited just to continue doing this. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for listening. The support
week's
has
gonna
been
be
great.
crazy.
Next week's going to be fire. But thank you guys for the support and for the love. Don't forget to share, subscribe, give us a good rating
Turn
on
on post
Spotify.
notifications.
Turn on
Right.
post notifications. But just stay tuned for next week. Party. It's going to be good. You guys,
Oh, it's gonna be party.
y'all don't want to miss it. So we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Peace out.